Hello, good evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Monday evening. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to North West Tonight. Our top story. An inquest hears how a son and father died after a 14-storey fall while working on a Liverpool building. The platform on which Clayton and David were working plunged down in front of horrified onlookers. Also tonight, another weekend win for Manchester City, but their biggest fixture, fighting 115 financial fair play charges, began today. Manchester Airport's boss hits back at a report which says it's the worst in the country. Titan's trip to Titanic ended in tragedy, as you've been hearing. A Merseyside man tells us how he had a lucky escape.
Checked out, checked the dates, yeah, everything added up. That was the voyage that I was meant to be on.
And many of us woke up to skies like this morning, thick, dense fog, but it finally lifted and cleared to a really lovely day. And there is good news in the forecast. So join me at the end of the programme for all the details.
The court was told today how a father and his 17-year-old son fell 14 storeys to their deaths when they were working on a tower block in Liverpool city centre as horrified onlookers watched. Clayton Bottomley was working as an apprentice with his dad, David, when the platform that they were standing on, inspecting the outside of a building, dropped into freefall in 2021. Well, Phil McCann was at their inquest today, and Phil, this was an awful incident witnessed by many people in the middle of a working day.
Yeah, because it happened right here in the middle of the busy office district here in Liverpool, Roger. This is Chapel Street, and this building behind me is the Unity building, made up of two towers, and it was on one of these towers that David, who was 53, and his son Clayton, who was just 17, were working. They were part of a massive construction project working on the building's cladding, and they were standing on a platform which was being used as a lift that ran up and down the exterior of the building. These are lifts that are very common in the building sector, especially on projects that involve very tall buildings. Then one day in May of 2021, the platform that they were standing on fell. It fell 14 stories from the 21st floor to a roof on the 7th floor. Today their inquests began here in Liverpool in front of a jury, but also in front of their family, including David's wife, who's also Clayton's mother. She had the job of identifying both of their bodies. The hearing today heard statements from witnesses that were read out, including a man who was taking part in a meeting in a boardroom in a solicitor's in the building opposite, who said that he was looking out the window at the time and saw the man who he now knows to be David trying to grab something before he said the platform began to fall. He said he saw both trying to grab a railing, but he said they seemed to brace themselves before he heard a series of loud clicks, and each click the platform would fall about a foot before he said it started dropping into free fall. It made a noise, he said, it sounded like a Catherine wheel or a zip wire before a very loud crash as it hit that roof on the 7th floor. There was a woman in the same meeting, there was a statement from her read out as well, in which she said people who saw it screamed, staff were sent home because they were in shock, and there was a paramedic who was asleep in the building that they were working on. He said the sound of it shook the room that he was in and woke him up because it sounded like a car bomb or a plane crash.
It sounds awful, Phil. What do we know about the circumstances that actually caused this to happen then?
Well, that's what the inquest will be seeking to find out over the next 6 days, Roger. But we got a hint from a statement from a police officer who said that witnesses had told them that the brakes had failed on the platform. We also know that David was pronounced dead at the scene. His son Clayton died 4 days later in hospital. The inquest continues here in Liverpool tomorrow.
Phil, thank you very much. Phil McCann there, live for us in Liverpool tonight. Now, Nathaniel Sharney was just 14 when he was stabbed to death by two other schoolboys on a street in Manchester a year ago. This weekend, his family marked the anniversary of his death, and his father vowed to never give up the fight against knife crime. He's been chatting to Mairead Smith.
Nathaniel Sharney is remembered on this new mural on Harper Hay neighbourhood project. His initials on a blue balloon at the centre that supports his friends.
It's a pleasure to see that kids are still remembering and seeing that they have his initials put down there. It's encouraging And we would just wish that the community would stick together, see your friend as a neighbor, not as an adversary or an enemy to an extent that you would want to take their life.
And across the road, a bench to remember Nathaniel in the park where he played.
Having a bench put aside in his honour, it does show that Nathaniel was part of the community. His death had an impact. Our responsibility is now to look forward and see if anything can be done to help support other children.
Frank should have been looking ahead to Nathaniel's 16th birthday next week. Instead, he's just marked the first anniversary of his death.
We all had hope that he's going to grow up and be a citizen of this country who might, do something for the country. And those were our hopes. All gone. In 5 seconds.
The night Nathaniel died, he'd ironed his Air Cadet's uniform before heading out. A row between groups ended in horror. Nathaniel was stabbed to death by 2 boys aged 14 and 15, armed with a knife and a screwdriver. The pair were jailed for life.
To say I remember that day, it might be an understatement. It's every day. Broken, with scars that you can't see. It's life-changing. Wherever I go, it's with me.
Remembering Nathaniel, you want to make sure that his death, his murder, wasn't in vain.
Absolutely. I'm not going to give up. Kids have to know that carrying a knife is wrong, and it is wrong. It will never be right. As I used to say to Nathaniel, if it's wrong, it will never be right. It's the same call to parents, that they should also play their role into checking what their children are doing.
Mairead Smith, BBC North West Tonight, Manchester.
Now we're going to have a full weather forecast for you from Kay shortly. We're going to meet the man who almost went on the Titan trip to Titanic but lost his place at the last minute. And Richard will round up the weekend's sport. But first, the mother of a baby who was murdered by Lucy Letby said that she didn't know his death was seen as suspicious until the nurse was arrested. Child C's mother told the Thirlwell inquiry today that she was called by a police officer in 2018. She's called for an apology from the former medical director at the Countess of Chester Hospital, Ian Harvey, saying that she felt completely betrayed. The family of a 16-year-old boy who was found dead in a Cheshire river have described him as compassionate and full of light. John T. Evans was reported missing at the end of August before his body was found in the River Weaver in Nantwich. Inspectors are warning a jail with the worst drug problem in the country won't improve unless there is investment. Nearly 60% of inmates at HMP Hindley near Wigan tested positive for drugs over 6 months. Inspectors found security at the gate was inadequate, drones often delivered drugs, and broken windows made smuggling easier. In the wake of the recent riots, projects in Merseyside which focus on bringing communities together are being invited to apply for money which has been raised by seizing criminal assets. Local organisations can bid for a share of £100,000, which has been raised through the Proceeds of Crime Act. And Blackpool's council leader says that she hopes that this year's illuminations will compensate for a disappointing summer. Lynn Williams says the cost of living crisis and prolonged rain reduced bookings over the summer period in the resort, but she is confident that Blackpool is now an all-year-round destination. That's since the lights were extended a few years ago, right up until into the new year. Now, over the past few weeks, if you've been watching, you'll know that we've been going behind the scenes at the region's biggest airport. August was Manchester Airport's busiest ever month, with almost 3.5 million passengers, capping off its busiest ever summer. And yet it has, for the 3rd year running, finished bottom in the Which survey of UK airports. Well, to conclude our series, Manchester Airport's managing director has been telling us he disputes those findings.
I don't feel the Which report properly represents what's going on at Manchester Airport today. 80% of our passengers have said you have a good, very good or excellent experience at Manchester Airport. And 98% of our passengers in August queued for less than 15 minutes to get into security. 75% almost queued for less than 5 minutes to get into security.
That's according to the airport's own statistics, but the Which report also criticised the toilets and lack of seating.
We speak to thousands of passengers for their feedback. 80% of them are saying it's a good, great or excellent airport.
Maybe that's because the airport's £1.3 billion investment programme, which is ongoing, has transformed Terminal 2, which is the one that most passengers now use.
70% of our passengers will then fly through that Terminal 2 infrastructure. The new security equipment will be installed, so as people don't have to take their lips and laptops out of their bags in the future. And then having finished with Terminal 2, we won't pause for breath. We're going to head straight to Terminal 3 and start doing a little bit of work there as well.
But what about the prices? The airport rejects criticisms that its shops and restaurants are overpriced.
The difference that does exist is a result of it being so much more complicated to operate an airside shop than it is on the high street. If you imagine how you get deliveries through security, how you get your retail staff to have a security pass to allow them airside, there are additional costs associated with operating out of the airport, and they do marginally increase the prices that retailers have to charge.
Manchester will soon join the big league of global airports, handling more than 30 million passengers a year. Both Heathrow and Gatwick, its closest comparators in the UK, only fared slightly better in the Which report.
Yeah, I don't think you should compare a small airport that caters for a small group of destinations with Manchester Airport that is the airport to travel from outside of London, of 200 destinations you can fly to direct.
There's no question Manchester Airport is a work in progress. We began our series when a spade first went into the ground to begin its construction in 1935. Almost 90 years on, it's a round-the-clock, year-round operation. Love it or loathe it, it helps put the North West on the map. Chris Woodroof, the MD of Manchester Airport, speaking to us. You'll be able to see an extended report from our time behind the scenes at Manchester Airport on BBC iPlayer. We'll let you know which day it goes up, but it will be going up available on the iPlayer one day later this week. Now, you may have seen on the national news the US Coast Guard's investigation into last year's ill-fated Titan sub-trip to the Titanic began today. All 5 people on board, fascinated by the history of Titanic, died as the sub imploded. Now, the inquiry is going to be watched closely by one Merseyside man. Graham Padden had a place on the ill-fated trip, but missed out at the last minute, as Phil Cunliffe explains.
Rescue teams are entering another critical day of searching for the tourist submarine that went missing near the wreck of the Titanic.
I followed the story around the clock virtually. You know, I was constantly looking at my phone, constantly looking for pieces. But I kind of knew myself from understanding the situation that they were in, that there wasn't much hope.
Graham Padden's interest in the fate of the stricken Titan sub ran deeper than most. Had events taken a different turn, he would have been among the passengers being searched for in the icy waters of the North Atlantic.
Checked the dates, yeah, everything added up. That was the voyage that I was meant to be on.
Graham had secured his place following phone conversations with OceanGate's mission director, Kyle Bingham. He liked the fact that Graham was Liverpudlian and had spent lots of time at sea.
So yeah, I first got interested in the Titanic story because I went to work on a famous cunarder called the QE2, which used to sail from Southampton to New York. So we regularly passed over the spot just off the coast of Newfoundland where Titanic went down. And if you look at the people that died on the Titanic, you know, a huge majority of them were sailors from Liverpool. So we had that link. I never had any safety concerns, no, because I knew that the sub Titan had done many voyages before. And I was used to working inside a diving bell, which worked under, you know, nowhere near the same type of pressure. But I was aware that these vessels were tested impeccably. And every time it'd done a voyage, it was tested again.
The sticking point was money. Customers had to raise £250,000, and when it became apparent that he was only able to raise half that, Graham lost his place to tourists with deeper pockets. Among the final crew list, the billionaire businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman.
Good morning. It's Friday, the 23rd of June. Tributes are being paid to 5 men who died on board the Titan submersible after it imploded near the wreck of the Titanic.
So I checked my messages. There it was from my sons. Dad, you never guess. Have you seen this? Look what happened to that sub, Dad. That could have been you on there. Don't you realise? You know, that could have been you. It hasn't put me off at all going back on if I got the opportunities again. I'm still spiritually drawn to the Titanic, to the wreck, to all the Liverpool sailors that are down there, because it is a grave. Coming down out of the murky depths, seeing the masts, seeing the forecastle, seeing the forecastle. Not many people have done that, so I wouldn't want to pass up that moment.
It was Graham Padden talking to Phil Cunliffe about his lucky escape, I think it's safe to say. Interesting to hear him say that if the opportunity arose, he would love to go again. I think it would have put me off for sure. But anyway, we'll move on to sport. Richard is here. Perhaps Manchester City's toughest fixture of the season got underway today, and it's got nothing to do with kicking a ball around.
You're right, Roger.
Well, it has, but it not directly.
Sort of has, yeah. 6 years after the Premier League started investigating Manchester City, and 20 months after they were charged, the hearing into the 115 charges has begun. It's being heard in private by an independent commission, a panel of 3 legal and financial experts. It's the biggest ever case of its kind, with an estimated 500 million documents to consider. It's expected to take at least 10 weeks. A verdict isn't expected until at least January of next year, with legal costs estimated to climb to about £100 million. So what have City been charged with? Well, the 115 charges break down into 5 areas, chief among them that City failed to provide accurate financial information 54 times, failed to provide accurate details on player and management payments 14 times, and failed to cooperate with Premier League investigations 35 times. City deny any wrongdoing. When the charges were brought in February of last year, the club referred to a comprehensive body of irrefutable evidence that would exonerate them. A 9-year period between 2009 and 2018 will be the focus. The Blues have won 8 Premier League titles and the Champions League, of course, since Sheikh Mansour's Abu Dhabi takeover in 2008. City fans will now have to see if any of the 115 charges holds water or not.
We'll sort it out, we'll get through it. If we have to go down, we go down, we'll get back up again.
That's what it is, isn't it? We want a treble. Don't matter. At the end of the day, whatever, bring us back down to the bottom. It's more fun that way, isn't it?
Are you not worried in any way?
No.
Our people have been doing their thing, theirs have been doing theirs, looking at everything for a long time now, so, you know, it's got to come to the right conclusion.
So if City are found guilty, then what possible sanctions could they face? Well, they could range from a fine to a transfer embargo, a points deduction, or even expulsion from the Premier League.
Effectively, the club is being accused of completely misrepresenting its financial affairs to the Premier League and gaining an advantage as a result of that. If there is a points deduction, I think most people seem to be of the view is that it would have to be an amount which would effectively relegate the club. So we're probably talking somewhere in the region of 60 to 100 points this season.
Either side could appeal against any decision, but unlike when City successfully overturned a similar ruling by European football's governing body UEFA 4 years ago, taking the matter to the Court of Arbitration for Sport is not an option. Any appeal would be heard by another 3-member panel. Just to complicate matters further, City is suing the Premier League in a separate but related case about commercial rules. It is worth stressing again that Manchester City reject all of the 115 charges. In the Championship, Blackburn Rovers kept up their excellent start to the season with a 3-0 win at home to Bristol City. Yuki Ohashi kept up his impressive start to his Blackburn career with 2 goals, taking his tally to 5 in 5 games since his move to Ewood. Burnley are appointed a place below Rovers after a hard-fought win at Leeds United. Luca Koleosho there with the only goal of the game. And Preston North End drew 1-1 at Middlesbrough, thanks to this stylish finish from Mads Frogkær Jensen.
Now, over recent weeks, you might know, we've been taking a tour of the Northwest's coast, visiting communities and meeting some of the characters who live there. Well, tonight, Ed Hanson's been to Southport, where he discovered the link between the town's lifeboat and a very determined mum.
Tonight I'm blessed with good weather and calm seas as we head out from Southport.
Intentions for the next 15 minutes is to remain within this vicinity.
We've got exercise going on this evening. We've got both boats out. So I've been involved with the lifeboats since I was a little boy because my dad was a coxswain and he's currently the chairman, and also my uncle's a coxswain of the boat as well. So I grew up in and around the lifeboat.
The charity has over 50 volunteers on the boats and on dry land.
So I joined back when I was, 17, 18, and it's been a fantastic experience for me. Unlike Nick, it hasn't been in my family, so I'm the first one for my family to join. It's been fantastic, learned lots of new things and met some great people as well.
It costs around £80,000 to run the service each year, and here is where they raise a large chunk of that cash.
We'll never lose weight because people bring cakes, coffee, everybody brings us stuff in to eat. Every day of the week something different. Different staff, different ways.
Kath's helpers are all close. This is a story born out of a family tragedy.
The waters looked calm enough today, but on Friday evening, strong winds forced the boat to capsize about 4 miles from the shore.
Kath's son, Geoffrey, was one of the people on that boat.
The fact that there was no lifeboat, I always felt that if there'd been a lifeboat here, he might have been saved.
The body of Geoffrey Clements, who was 18, was found yesterday.
And within a year, Kath had raised enough for a boat for the town and for Geoffrey. Things have certainly moved on. 2 years ago, the team moved to a new base.
Nobody could have been as happy as it was when I first went and we opened the door to it. Proud, very proud that we've got what we wanted.
More than 500 people have been rescued since Kath founded the charity.
To see it going from the smaller building to what it is now is just absolutely incredible. And to be able to maintain the 2 boats, the launch vehicles, the quads, the station itself, is all thanks to Kath's hard work.
They're all fantastic, every one of them. They all do their own bit. They all know the places and what they do. And it works out well, but they really do work hard, them lads there.
There's a sense of satisfaction out of knowing that we're helping people, but it's also enjoyment, meeting new people. We have a good time together, especially after there's been a bad incident or whatever, we can come round and look after each other as well. So that sense of teammanship is really important.
Current position is Zealandia buoy.
My ambition was to build a lifeboat house, which we've done. And then people said, are you going to retire? I went, no. Got to keep it going, keep it afloat. Couldn't really pack it in for the sake of Geoffrey. I've got to keep going.
Ed Hansen on the Southport lifeboat for BBC North West Tonight.
Amazing, isn't it? And well done to Kath. Now, we've had an email.
Oh, here we go.
Peter says, Kate. This is the weather with K, by the way.
Yeah.
Kate, the weather girl. Where did you get your dress from? It looks like my curtains.
Peter!
I'm not sure about your curtains, Peter,
If your
to be honest.
curtains look like this sensational dress, Peter, then I'm jealous of your curtains. And
it's a nice
got
dress.
Pockets, so I can have 2 clickers because I'm always carrying a spare these days.
Good for you.
Thanks, Peter. I'll take that compliment. And I'm very proud of your curtains. I'm also very proud of pictures today because the weather has been sensational. Now, we did start off, didn't we, with some mist and fog around. You can see it in the valleys. Thank you, Rami Rambler, for sending that one in. Once that mist and fog cleared, beautiful blue skies. I mean, look at that gorgeous photograph. Beautiful, temperatures above average. A lovely day. Thank you for sending those photos in. If you would like to join me, then do on socials, or better yet, you can get involved on Weather Watchers. Those graphics will come up on the screen in a minute, so I am told. Weather Watchers. So just Google bbc.co.uk, Weather Watchers. You can become a weather watcher. You can send your photos, let me know what it's like in your part of the world, or Instagram, Facebook. Send us all the usual ways. I would love to see your photographs. And if I do eventually get graphics, then I will show you them. But in the meantime, let me just tell you about the weather, because it's going to be scenes like this that you are going to be seeing as we head throughout this week. Fine and dry conditions, a little bit of patchy mist and fog overnight tonight. That, more especially, is going to be for parts of Merseyside. Elsewhere, nowhere near as much as we had last night. It'll be chilly. Temperatures get down to about 6 degrees. So it'll be a chilly night. I'm heading over here. Hopefully you've still got me. So let's find out. Well, we've still got that beautiful picture, so it's a good job it's a fine picture, isn't it? So we wake up tomorrow morning, it will be a chilly start to the day. Once we lose any mist and fog, then it'll be dry and fine, lengthy spells of sunshine. The only difference tomorrow, the breeze starts to come in from the northeast, but a light breeze. We're going to get temperatures in parts up to 21 degrees, I think, in parts of Lancashire. So it should feel really quite pleasant in that sunshine. That's a good 3 or 4 degrees above average for the time of year. And we repeat that performance, although on Wednesday, I think we are going to see more in the way of cloud. It's going to be broken as we go through the morning, and then lovely spells of sunshine to end the day. Similar scenes Thursday, more in the way of cloud Thursday. And at the minute, we're talking about the risk of a few showers Friday and into the weekend. But that's ages away, so we'll come to that when we get to it.
So I have to say, Peter, you might not like her dress, but you have to doff your cap to someone who can do the weather forecast without any pictures to give her a prompt and still tell us what's going to happen. It's in there, isn't it?
It's a good job. It's a fine weather week.
That's true.
It's a good week.
Thank you for watching. We'll fix the weather computer for tomorrow. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Turn of events.
Yeah.